Hello once again. Today I'm going to be playing a decay deck, and this is pretty standard Watchergedden style decay. It doesn't have Halls of Amlasa, which is something different. I find Halls of Amlasa is a little bit slow in a lot of games. You won't get a chance to use it, or if you do use it, you'll eventually get behind because you lose board control. So I've gone with Roofing Mask for draw instead. It seems to do okay, especially in the Watchergedden deck where you're getting the idols pretty low. It's a good finishing move and something a lot of opponents don't expect. So that's always good. There are a lot of only 2 cards in this deck. That's to kind of balance out the curve a little bit. 3 roads. This is something I originally saw Blinky put in his deck. I think he was the first person I saw at least. And it's something to ramp your decay and also deal with structures, which seems pretty good, but if they don't have structures, it's just a dead card. So it's kind of a hit and miss a lot of the time. So as tempo auto, you probably don't want it, and I'm thinking maybe of only putting 2 in, but I'm not sure if it's worth it just yet. We'll see how I go with 3, and then I might pull it back to 2 and swapping out for a damning, or probably a damning. Maybe a black bear though. Alrighty, here we go. Ranked away. Hey, so I thought I'd do a commentary over my previous commentary, just so I could kind of talk through a lot of the aspects a lot more. I kind of was distracted by the gameplay, so I thought I'd kind of go over it again and hopefully explain things a little bit better. So, this is my starting hand. I think it's pretty crummy, mainly because there's a whole bunch of, well, I've got the Rod Eater and the Languid, which is good, but 4 of my other cards I can't really play on turn 3. They're not good turn 3 or under cards. So, my early game's looking a bit crummy, so I decided to sack. And this hand's a lot better, basically. And so I'm thinking, hey, what should I sack? Well, I know he is growth for Rod Eater's probably going to go down to turn 3. It's really good against growth. Darkling's pretty crummy, but I might be able to play that turn 2 instead of Languid. Damning Curse is only really good later on in the game, or if he's playing Enchantment Growth. So that's something I'd hold on to in that situation. So this matchup kind of revolves around Harvesters and Rod Eaters for the decay player. Normally bigger creatures, depending on what type of growth he's playing. If it's a little bit faster, he'll be trying to get my idols down, obviously, if it's enchantment growth. And if it's, well, this kind of tells me it is enchantment growth, because you don't play that lady unless you want to buff her, because she has pretty crummy stats, basically. So I kind of preempt the buff, throw the Languid down, and keep playing. So yeah, more later game growth suffers from decay because Quakes and Frostgales are pretty much useless against decay. They have, you know, a lot of big creatures, not many 2-hit point creatures, and also they benefit from the death of their creatures big time. So it's a bit rough. So I have a few options here. I luckily pick up the Draining Mist, which kind of is the best way to protect my unit while still maintaining board control. So I was lucky to top deck the Draining Mist there. But otherwise I probably would have played, I would have considered playing the Harvester in front. And once again, I top deck a good card, Black Bear. It sees me through, not as important as last turn, but still good. A nice pickup, especially since I only have 2 in the deck, like you saw earlier. Now he is kind of putting a lot of 1 countdown units on this board. This is kind of still standard of enchantment growth, so I'm still thinking, hey, it's going to be a fast game. He's probably going to only get to 5 resources this game. I'm going to slowly have to outpace him, which is kind of how you normally play this matchup anyway. It's a game where you kind of fill the board, eventually get your Witch Doctors out, and then you put your Rod Eaters or Harvesters behind the Witch Doctors, and you just spiral out of control there. It's really tough for the growth player to get at those Harvesters and prevent the cooldown reduction. And there he makes an extremely aggressive play. So he puts down the Mirth, and as you can see, I also kind of position my units so the Black Bear is in front. So if he does buff that unit, it's a 3-for-1 trade. Eventually his Wetland Ranger will die, and also I'll get that unit regardless. So I still get a better trade-off in that situation. I'm still 1 card ahead. And what he's doing is extremely risky, because he's saying, hey, if you have a damage curse, you're going to get ahead, basically. So quite a risky play there with the Wetland Ranger. And once again, he opts for the more aggressive play. And now I'm going, hey, what's going on here? I thought this was an enchantment growth deck. He's playing Treant Brute, which is pretty unorthodox. So I'm thinking maybe it's more like the deck I played against him, which has a lot of kind of enchantment, low cooldown growth cards in it, and but has more of a late game feel. So I have to damage curse here, and I get the 2-for-1 on this. But I'm also thinking, hey, maybe I can take a little bit more damage, and I'm also trying to think of the best way to position my units. If I can somehow protect the Ripper from a wolf or something like that, but I can't. So I get some damage off, and I set up for like a lice on the Treant Brute. So I'm ahead at the moment, but if he plays a wolf, I consider myself behind. I'm actually 2 scrolls ahead, because I got the Gravelock Lady earlier for free. I think that's a mistake there. I think he should have played it on the Ripper. I guess he's probably setting off for the Gale. Even if he was setting off the Gale, you could have positioned around the Black Bearer, while also I'm thinking Watchergedden, but Watchergedden's actually quite bad in this matchup, unless it's a finishing move, just because of the Quake, of course, and there's no way to really benefit from it, because you have to have about 10 resources to cast a Watchergedden and then cast a Rod Eater or a Harvester. It's probably a bad move giving that unit for free there also from him. believe that's a mistake. I could have avoided the poison there. So Darklings are pretty average in this matchup. It's not like a rushy matchup. A good finishing move once again, but they offer no real board control. So I want to get the Witch Doctor out. And I'm thinking, hey, maybe I shouldn't play him just in case he veterans him, but then I think, well, if he veterans, then Quakes, he's probably going to have the board control anyway at that point, so it'll probably be worse for him. Got a road, and I'm thinking, well, it's very unlikely he has a totem in this deck. Oh, it's not that unlikely, but it seemed very much like the deck I was playing versus him, which doesn't run totems. And I want to kind of protect my idols. I feel pretty ahead, like I said, 2 scrolls ahead earlier, so I wanted to protect my idols, just ensure the victory. I could have played a Lifesteal, a more powerful unit, but I decided to go for a spread instead. He's kind of already said, look, I want to be aggressive, so I didn't want to take any chances, especially if he possibly had a Rumble in his deck. It's pretty much impossible for him to protect one of his units here. So, because I have a Soul Steal, so he kind of has to lose, has to give me another trade in my favor this turn. It's because of his positioning, mainly. I mean, even if he played, the best possible outcome would be a Sister, so Sister of the Fox would have forced me to a Soul Steal, which I guess would have been a 1-for-1. So that's not entirely true. But Yachts for the Vader, and I managed to get a 2-for-1. And I'm thinking, hey, I want to get up to 8 next turn because I've got all these fire drops, I've got a lot of good 3 drops. I might be able to cast a couple of things next turn. So I will sack to 7 with the hope of getting up to 8 next turn. And considering I'm ahead, I'm considering draining this here, even though my units aren't under very much threat. I think draining this would probably be the correct play, just because I am ahead, and I want to maintain that lead. I don't want to be surprised by anything. Once again, I keep the spread to protect the idols. And Fertile Soil, which kind of reconfirms the fact that it's a late game deck to me. And I really overvalue Oblivion Seekers in every matchup, so I decided to go for the Oblivion Seekers over the Lifestealer. Even though it's quite a tanky unit, it kind of can tank Quake quite well. And once again, I sacked to that. Last turn I sacked to 7 to get to this 8, and I do draw a really good 3-drop, which I'm pleased with. So I figure there's It's not much of a way. I mean, he can frost scale here, but he's going to hurt his own unit. So there's no real way of protecting that Brave. And Brave is something also in this matchup you kind of want to avoid just because they are a little bit light. You want to get those 4 hit point units out. Something that's very good is all relentless units because they can chow through rows of these decay units. Like Fangbearer is very good. You probably want to put it in a more defensive position because it is such a high valued target. And Watchergedden is one of the best cards in this matchup, and I'm a little bit afraid of a God Hand or something. I mean, it doesn't do much, but like I said, I'm in such a strong position that I want to maintain board control in this spot. I don't want to really give them a break or let up. So I decided to remove the high priority target, which was the bear. And I was saying, he's getting up to God Hand range, so it is good to not give the growth player any room to build up forces. And he's a bit split here, which is really rough for him. You only kind of want to split normally if you want to attack different idols at different spots. You want to go for idol damage instead of board control. It's a reason why you want to split your units like that. So I'm just kind of making sure he's pulling no surprises. Once again, I'm getting very good trades here. I managed to pick off one of his units once again. And it's kind of this slow snowballing force that is decay. I do make some movement mistakes in this game, I remember. I should probably have that black bear in the middle row. It's because, yeah, just mistakes like this. So I make a big movement mistake a little bit later on. And the 2 Rod Eaters are really good for this matchup, especially since he has so few relentless creatures in his deck. By the looks of things, he may still have a wolf. From his perspective, something you always want to do with pretty much every matchup is get your Mystic out as soon as possible. I try and sack for it. I almost overvalue it to the point where I will sack almost any hand just to get the Mystic as a turn 3 play, because it's pretty much impossible to not get value out of that Mystic if you play it turn 3. And that's another slightly questionable play. It just looks like he's setting up for the Quake. But, and I make a movement mistake here, where I cannot get to the Earthborn Mystic. So instead of, just because if I position my units behind the Blightbearer, she probably would have got poisoned, which I didn't want.
So I get forced into doing 4 damage on the top idol, which kind of is a switch of pace, because I'm now going for idol damage instead of attacking his units, doing what he did to me, except later on in the game, basically. I'm taking a less aggressive stance. I'm sorry, I'm taking a more aggressive stance. Because instead of positioning my Witch Doctor in the middle row, which establishes board control, instead I move him down, which gives me this corner of control up the top. So I guess he's trying to follow up with Quake, but just because of the amount of units on my board, and his positioning here, I get to take the game with the Watchergedden. I kind of throw down the Rod Eater afterwards, just to say, hey, I had some units to protect against the Quake here, even if you had the second Quake. And that's the game. Pretty straightforward.